Okay, today we will complete the remaining topics on induction machines. Last class we did on induction generators which are grid connected, and today we will discuss about self-excited induction generators which are not grid connected, and also the single phase induction motors. Okay. Actually this is I mean a picture of the nacelle. I told you about the how the wind turbines, which we discussed last class. So there is a wind turbine, the gearbox, and the induction generator which are connected. This is part of one of the systems which are installed. Okay, and of course there is it's all mounted on a tower. Okay, the typical picture looks like this. So there is a tubular tower, then there are these wind machine. This is the wind turbines, and running the induction generators. They are brought down to the grids. Okay, and this is one of the photograph of one of the wind machines installed near Kanyakumari. This is around 750 kilowatt, and this is the nacelle. On the top of it, induction generator will be here, and this is rotating, and then through there are cables are brought down and connected to this this transmission line. It then transmit. This is where it's converted into 11 kilovolt kV, and it's brought out. Okay, I mean this is just to sensitize you on what is going on, and this is one of the upcoming technologies. Okay. Now, if you go to the self-excited induction generators, that is, when it is not connected to the grid. Okay. We use the capacitor excitation, because in the last class we said that if it has to be feeding to the grid, there is a prime mover, induction generator, and feed to the grid, and we connect a capacitor, right? And capacitor was supposed to supply to you the reactive var required. So P goes from here, and Q was coming from here, right? So we were, but if you put whatever all the Q required from this capacitor itself, then you don't need the grid. So remove grid. Okay. So you connect a capacitor at the terminal of induction generator, and that will operate as a self-excited induction generator. Okay. Now, so the scheme would like this. We have a prime mover, which can be typically wind or hydro or oil engine, some prime mover. Now that will run an induction generator, an induction machine workplace generator, and you connect a capacitor. Okay, and then you connect a load. This is capacitor. So this is the system. Okay. So a capacitor is the one which provides the reactive var required for exciting the induction machine. Okay. Now, with this arrangement, we have drawn this schematic diagram here. Okay, which is this. Now, how does the voltage build up? After all, you are having all dead machines. You know, there is an induction machine, there is a prime mover, and induction machine is getting rotated. Okay, when it is getting rotated, then it has to build up a voltage. In other machines you have some excitation being given, here you are putting a capacitor. So the procedure is, the theory behind this is as follows. You have, after all, induction machine can be represented by its magnetizing reactance, let us say JXM, and let us say minus JXC. So it is like a sort of a resonance that this creates. Okay. Now through this, let us say I, the voltage V, if it is the one, it goes up like this. This is the magnetization characteristics of the induction machine. Voltage versus current across XM. You assume an induction machine to be just an inductor, okay, that as if the stator impedance is 0 and the rotor is open, right, and it is an inductor, you know, all thing is it. So and then at the terminal you connect a capacitor, okay, and this it will be like that, but there will be some residual voltage will be there. So there will be something which is at, even at 0 current there will be some small voltage when it is running. So then what will happen? A small current will flow. Imagine that there is some residue in the rotor, some flux is in the rotor. When it is rotating, some voltage will come in the 3-phase windings in the stator, right, across which you have connected a capacitor. Okay. Now there will be certain voltage and that will cause certain current, okay, and you also have a, across the capacitor there will be a current across the capacitor, when the current is there is a voltage across the capacitor. So there is a capacitor line, let us say this is voltage across the capacitor, this is voltage across the, let us say, machine. And whenever there is a, initially there will be a voltage, okay, and it will pass a current through the capacitor, and at that current, okay, there will be a voltage in the machine, okay, and again that for that voltage there will be again a current in the capacitor, and then it will voltage in the machine. So there will always be some differential voltage in the loop, okay, it will go on like that. So up to here it will go. So this is where this is the operating point, where the voltage there is a across the capacitor and across the machine will balance. Till that time there is some differential voltage would be there that will build up the current and voltage. So if you, with time if you see, so there will be some increase in the voltage and current and it will go to a steady value, okay. And this is a very qualitative explanation of how a voltage builds up in a self-excited induction machine, which is standalone, okay. Now you notice that at this point voltage across the capacitor should be equal to voltage across the machine. Voltage across capacitor, see capacitor capacitance will be, supposing the frequency per unit frequency is f, supposing the operating per unit frequency is f, here it will become JFXM, here it will become minus JXC by f, because, isn't it, the reactant. Therefore this will be, if f is 150 cycles, or then they will be balanced. Supposing at any other frequency, any other speed, what will happen? Supposing it's a different frequency, then the two curves will change, because this will be, if it is half, this will go down and this will go up, okay. This is one thing. So operating point is decided by the speed of the prime mover, right. Then if you change the capacitance also, what will happen? Suppose you have put one value of capacitance. If you change the capacitance, if you increase the capacitance, what will happen? Where will it go? Will it go down or up if you increase the capacitance? This curve? Down. So if you increase the capacitance, it will be some other curve. So increasing capacitance, what will it mean? It will operate at higher voltage. So qualitatively we can say increased capacitance would mean higher voltage, decreased capacitance would mean lower voltage, and increased speed would mean higher voltage, and decreased speed would mean lower voltage. So this is a qualitatively you can see. And also there is a one curve. This is the curve. What does it curve will say? Which is tangential? See, I can increase the capacitor, I can decrease the capacitor. I can decrease up to this value, right? Now what is this indicate? This is the minimum capacitance. If you go below that, it will not self-excite. So there is a minimum value of capacitance required to self-excite a machine, okay, at a given speed. So for each speed there is a capacitance that will be there. So we have seen effect of capacitor and speed. What is the effect of capacitor? Speed means increase C means it will be increase V, and similarly increase N speed means there will be increase in voltage. So these are the observations we can qualitatively make: effect of capacitor and effect of speed, okay. And we also see that minimum capacitance that will be required, actually it will be proportional to, we can prove it is proportional to square of speed. It will be something like this. If you increase the speed, minimum capacitance will be there, okay. So this is one of the findings that we get, that capacitance and speed will have a bearing on the voltage that is generated on the machine. So at a given speed, you can control the capacitance to get the required voltage, okay. Now typically load characteristics, if that induction machine self-excited is loaded, that means voltage versus power output will be typically like this. But we are only doing a qualitative explanation to this. So the voltage drops because of inherent internal impedances and reduction in VAR. Because when there is a reduction in voltage, then capacitance VAR will also reduce, isn't it? At the terminal, you are connected a capacitor at the terminal, so you reduce the, if you load, you connect a load at the machine as we did in the first these things, because if you load changes, the voltage will go down, so VAR will go down, and accordingly further there will be some cumulative, there will be some cumulative effects. So you will have this voltage will come down. Okay, this may be different, this may be C1. So there is another capacitance, maybe C2, C3, where C3 is less than C2, less than C1. So this is one of the characteristics that you have. But suppose you want to maintain a constant voltage, what you should do? At all loads, because that is power is changing, at all loads I want to have a constant capacitance. Suppose I want to maintain the voltage constant. What we should do? Vary the capacitance. So that means at this power I can have this capacitance, at this power I can have another capacitance, this power another capacitance, right? Therefore what we say is, to maintain constant, to keep Vt constant, vary the capacitor. This is, so you need to have a variable capacitor system to maintain the voltage constant, this at the same speed. Again, of course, if the speed changes, then you will have the, so we get just like in a synchronous machine, the compounding curve or excitation characteristics, we have these characteristics. What is the capacitance versus power output to maintain V constant? How do you expect it to grow? How do you expect it to go? Will it increase or decrease? As the power goes up, so you will notice that the capacitance will increase like this. Typically, I would say this is around 0.7 per unit and this is around 2 per unit. This is our for V equal to, let us say, 1 per unit. I mean, typically. Now, this is at UPF, what will be the situation if the load is lagging? What do you expect if the load is lagging power factor load? The curve will be, if the load, connected load is lagging, your capacitance requirement will be more, because it has to compensate also for the lagging VAR of the load. Therefore, this will be maybe 0.8 power factor lag. Because if it is leading, it may be like that. So these are, I mean, this you can explain qualitatively, that the capacitance, this will be the excitation characteristics. Okay. Now the proposed applications. In fact, this area is still in development stage. Where it has already seen the field is in small hydro, because for example, India has nearly 5,000 megawatts of small hydro power. Wherever there is small waterfalls, even 10 kilowatt, 20 kilowatt for localized loads, it is found, because the advantage is induction machine is so rugged, unlike a synchronous machine where you need brushes and things like that. So it can be used for standalone wind systems and small hydro systems, okay, and the biomass, also biomass engines and oil engines, petrol. In fact, it is proposed many of the standalone units used in domestic also you can consider using the self-excited induction generators. Okay, so these are the applications in which it has been proposed. But the one thing is, you can connect a prime mover, but you need to develop a controller. Because why do you need a controller? Controller is to maintain the voltage constant and the frequency constant, because isn't it, V constant and F constant, right? And what should a controller do? Controller must provide, it should make a VAR, that the capacitive VAR it should provide, which is as required by load. Okay, and that means wind machine will have a different controller, hydro machine will have a different controller, oil engine will have a different controller. So that means depends on energy source and also depends on the prime mover. Because if there is a speed variation like in a wind machine, then you need to have a controller must take care of that. In a hydro machine, speed is nearly constant, therefore your controller will have to take care of only VAR control. There are several ways. How do you change the capacitance? Because one should look at what is the practical way to vary the capacitance. What methods you know? How do you vary the capacitance at the terminal of the machine? One is the methods for VAR control. One is you can have a switch capacitance. That means you can go and switch the capacitance. Right? This is one way. As the load increases, but it cannot be done manually, it must be automatically done. So you need to have electronic switches, right, as it changes. Another is what is known as static VAR system. You can have a high inductor, because you want to vary the capacitance from, let us say, C1 to C2. So you connect here high C2, okay, and then you have a variable inductor, right, isn't it? So, in parallel with this is varying L, okay. So, this is one way of control that are being thought of. How do you vary L? In fact, there are also various way in which you can have a back-to-back thyristor and then connect an inductor. So, the current through the inductor can be controlled by the firing angle control. So, this is how you vary L. Because of shortage of time, we can't go into details, but just to inform you that the different methods which are thought of for a static VAR system, a switched capacitor, variable inductor, okay, or capacitor parallel with inductor. Because nowadays there are also called static compensation schemes which are a little more involved, are being suggested. So, now still these are in development stage. Only the small hydro systems are currently installed in several locations, at least about 10 locations we have installed self-excited induction generator for small hydro systems. You know, in a country like India, wind systems and hydro systems are not in the same place. Wherever there is wind, there is no hydro. See, wind is mostly in places like Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, Orissa, whereas small hydro is in Western Ghats, Northeast, J&K, Himalayas, and like that. So, that way it complements, like Uttaranchal has large potential like that. Okay. So, there are such units are there. In fact, these are actually one of the sites. I don't know whether you can see it. I mean, the waterfall in one of the places in Karnataka where they have, this is the normal natural water form, and which are being installed. Okay, you can't see it. Okay, I will show you. Because this is just the pipe which are, you know, from the hills it is going into the. Okay, I'll go back to. And this is a picture of the water going into the power station. This is power station through the pipe. Let's see what. Okay, now this is some more. This is one of the installed places. You will see that the water is coming and it's going into the turbine. Okay, you are able to see this? Okay, I think he's better. So you see this is the turbine in one of the locations. Okay, now next is the water is controlled by this valve, okay, into the turbine. Of course, it is not the place no vehicle can go. It is inside the forest. There are about 10 houses where it is installed. Okay, then right. So now after the turbine, it goes through a belt drive to this induction generator. Okay, this is the induction generator. Okay, so this is which has been installed. Okay, then next to the this is the controller which has the which controls the load, because the consumer load may change. Therefore, if this is about say 1 kilowatt, consumer needs only half kilowatt, remaining half you have to dump. For that you have these resistors. Okay, these are being put it in. This is a small the power station where this controller has in this energy meter and all the thing, and this totally indigenous technology. Now so the remaining, this is called a load controller, where this in this resistors it is being heated. Okay, and okay, so I mean it is just to tell you the situation in one of the sites where the self-excited induction generators are being used. So you have seen typical application of grid connected machines in wind and self-accelerated machine in hydro. Okay, and apparently with a lot of emphasis on sustainable development and decentralized power and eco-friendly technologies, we expect that this will be the future technologies, where it should be user friendly and acceptable to the community. Incidentally, the person who is maintaining that unit in that village is only a matriculate, and he was trying to start the induction machine, operate the turbine and maintain the voltage and everything. So you can imagine it is they who may be more useful than engineers, okay, in maintaining the systems. Okay, right. Now anyway, engineers have to do the development of developing the designing the machines and controllers and so on. Okay. Now we will quickly go through the single phase induction motor, and because this is an important topic, because these motors are very widely used. Okay, and you are aware that if you have a single phase stator and a squirrel cage rotor, only one of the three phases are excited. Imagine a single phase motor to be a normal three phase motor when two phases are not carrying current. Only one, but squirrel cage is there. Then you what is the type of field it will create? Will it create a rotating field? It will create a pulsating field, isn't it? We are told it create a pulsating field, it result in two rotating fields, isn't it? So it creates a pulsating field and result to two counter revolving fields, both at synchronous speed. This is what you have already learned. One is a forward field, another is a backward field, and each field produces a reaction. Say forward field will create a reaction in the rotor. Okay, so what we notice is the summary if this is that each field produces reaction in the rotor as in a polyphase motor. Okay, now what type of reaction it will give, right? So one thing is you are interested, what is the reaction of forward field? It is like a normal three phase motor, right? So the forward field, let us say, will have a torque speed characteristics, let us say 0, 1, minus 1. What will be the nature of torque speed characteristics? It will be a standard, it will go like this, isn't it? Let us say T due to forward field, TF, isn't it? Now what will be the reaction due to backward field? This is the forward field. Now the reaction of backward field, so whatever happens in forward, it happens in the reverse, right? So where it will be a mirror reflection, where will it start? This is the TB. So you have a forward field and the backward field. So on the same shaft, there will be torque which will be operating both forward and backward. So what will be the cumulative effect of the two fields? So all you have to do is you just sum it up, right? So at any speed, it will be sum of the two fields. Okay. So you have one forward field, let us say TF, let us say another backward field, TB. What will be the net field? So you sum up this at every speed. This is the speed and this is the torque. What will be the net resultant field? What will be resultant looks like? So it will start, okay, you start from here, and similarly you will have this is the resultant. Let us say TR. So TR will be equal to TF plus TB. So what do you conclude from here? Look at this curve. You conclude the following. One is that there is no starting torque. Starting torque is 0. Now, once you start, there is a non-zero torque at all other points. And when other speed it has 0 torque, is it synchronous speed? No, it is not at synchronous. It is at something slightly less than synchronous speed here. So there is a 0 torque point here. There is a 0 torque point here, and there is a 0 torque point here. This also are not at minus synchronous speed. It is slightly more than the minus synchronous speed. Okay. Therefore, you will see these are the characteristics that you will find. Net characteristics. So maximum torque is reduced. So if you can somehow start, then it can operate this. Supposing this is the load torque, so it can operate at that speed, right? So your whole concern is how to produce the starting torque, right? So your whole concern is if you have a single phase winding only, you can, even if you give a little hand push also it may start. Okay? You have to give a starting torque, right? Now let us just look at how do we give that starting. So we have seen, what do we conclude from here? Starting torque is 0, non-zero torques in other speeds, 0 torque at a speed slightly less than the synchronous speed, therefore stable zone in both directions. So it is not in one, you can have two stable zones, isn't it? This is stable zone here, this is stable zone here. Either you can operate at this point or this point, which was not there in the normal 3-phase machine. Okay. So if you give a spin in clockwise, it will go to the clockwise stable zone. If you give a spin in anti-clockwise, it will go to anti-clockwise stable zone. So if you give a negative torque, it will go here, positive torque will go here. Okay. Now how do we start? Now the positive starting torque to be provided. When once it starts, it has torque at other speeds and accelerate to a stable speed as per opposing load torque. Okay. I think this is what we have said. Okay. Then how to provide starting torque? I mean, the question is, how do you provide this starting torque? Okay. Now make forward torque more than the backward torque at start. All you have to do, somehow you have to give a more forward torque than the backward torque. Then that means make forward field stronger than the backward field at start. At speed 0, somehow make the forward pole stronger than the backward pole, and then it will give a. Now how do you do that? Next is we know what is to be done. Then how to strengthen the forward field. So what we do is you include a second winding in the stator, not one more winding you add. It is called an auxiliary winding. That is a winding. You have put one more winding which is leading the main winding. Okay, which leads the main winding, and in space, and then let it carry a current which also leads the main winding. So you have second winding which is leading in space, which will carry a current in leading in time with reference to main winding. So you have created a forward field. Okay. Therefore, this is what the condition is that we will do. Okay. Now, how do you create that? What are the methods which are used to do this? Okay. What are the methods used? 3 methods are used for this purpose. One is called a split phase winding. Another is called a 2-phase windings with capacitors, and the third is called a shaded pole winding. So let us look at each one of the methods. What is the split phase winding? So in split phase winding, let us say you have the main winding M, you have the auxiliary winding A, because voltage is same. You are applying the same voltage, AC voltage, single phase AC voltage, and there is a squirrel cage is there, and you connect it. So it will carry a current IM and IA, right? Since A winding is leading M winding, all you have to do, you have to somehow make A to lead M. Supposing this is voltage V vector, right? You have to somehow make this should be IA and this may be IM, right? How do you do that? What should be the impedances like these windings? I mean, when will it lead, when will it lag? When that impedance is more inductive, it will lag, and less inductive, it will lead. So you make this, you make R more and L less. That's what you saw. Here you make R less and L more. Two windings, they call split phase windings. They are used in many of these small your desert coolers and various things. Okay, so you make an impedance of the two different, so that the currents will have a phase lag between them. Okay, that is what we do. That means A winding leads M winding. A winding has more R less L. This is what you will have. And M winding has less R more L. Okay, so IA leads IM for same V. Okay, so it results in two phase winding with two phase currents, but currents are not balanced, they are unbalanced current, doesn't matter, it gives you a slightly positive torque. So forward field greater than the backward field at start, therefore forward starting torque is produced. Is it clear? So this is one of the methods which are used for starting, and these are used in typically very the rating of such split phase machines will be 100 watts, 200 watts, like that, These are fractional kilowatt machines. Okay. Next is capacitor winding. In capacitor winding, again you have the same two windings, M and A leading M, but here you connect a capacitor in the A winding, because squirrel cage is anyway there. Now you are sure that I auxiliary and IM. So I auxiliary, since you have connected the capacitor, it will ensure that this will be leading the M winding. Okay, this is A winding and this is M winding. So IA leads IM due to what? Due to C. Okay. Now that is what is done. So connect a suitable capacitor in series with A winding, which is 90 degrees leading M winding. A winding is always leading M winding by 90 degrees, but they may not have same turns. It may be asymmetrical two phase windings, but at 90 degrees, but they normally have more turns and less resistance, more resistance like that. So M and A windings are in parallel, they are in parallel, right? They are across the same source, right? And then across the voltage source, and then capacitor causes IA to lead IM, forward field greater than backward field at start, therefore forward starting torque is produced. Okay, this is again the same principle. Okay, so we have seen. Now there are also three types of capacitor motors. One is you use capacitor only for start purposes. You don't need a capacitor at run. Okay. Another is you connect it permanently. You don't disconnect. So after it, that is the thing. Another is called you have one for start, one for run. You have two capacitors, capacitor start, capacitor run. So we'll quickly look at these. What are these three systems? Okay. Now capacitor start motor, you have M and A winding, but you have a switch. This is the switch. Now the switch is on at start. This is on at start, but off at run. After it reaches say 70% of speed or 80% speed, it gets disconnected. How did it disconnect it? And that switch is called a centrifugal switch. It operates by the principle centrifugal action. So after certain speed, it just switch is disconnected. Okay, that is the principle of a centrifugal switch. Okay, you know, I hope all of you know what is centrifugal force, right? Centrifugal force will be there only after certain speed. So it disconnects capacitor after certain speed. Therefore, you have a you just can supposing, you know, if it is in single winding, it operates like this, right? This is with one winding, and if both windings, let us say it operates like this, this is with capacitor, then what will happen? All you are doing is you are traversing from this characteristics and then suddenly shift to this characteristics. Okay, this is the switching time, switching instant. So here where you switch at this speed, n switch. Okay, so you operate, you have a high starting torque, and then you because you don't want to come down to 0, right? You want to shift to this one. So this is what you will have with this arrangement. Okay. Another is a permanent capacitor. Permanent capacitor is very simple. So you don't have a switch, you just have a capacitor. Now you adjust the permanent capacitor in such a way that will give you a good starting torque and good running torque. So C, it must give good start and it must also good reasonably good run. So there is a compromise. A capacitor which gives good starting torque need not be the one which gives you good running torque. Therefore it has a characteristics maybe something like this. Okay, this is called a permanent capacitor. Your ceiling fan, for example, is having a permanent capacitor. There is no switching that takes place, but it is adjusted so that it's more or less IM, IA are balanced. Okay, IM and IA. IM, IA are balanced for most of the speeds. Okay. Then the third type is called a capacitor start, capacitor run motor. So you use two capacitors. Two capacitors use, one which is best for start, another which is best for running. Okay. So you have a connection like this. You have a switch. Okay, you can put it either here or here. So you have two capacitors. Okay, so it can be put in position 1 or position 2. This is C1, C2. So C1 for start and C2 for run. Okay. So there is one capacitor for start. This is used for slightly higher ratings because you need to have a. So what will the centrifugal switch do? It will. The centrifugal switch will switches from C start to C run. This is the C start to C run. It will switch. Initially it will C start. Then after that speed it will connect the C run. Okay. So this is the if you have a 2 value capacitor, supposing you have, this is with C start, okay, and you have another with C run. You have 2 characteristics. Then again you will start with C start, and then you go to C run, and that's how it should be. Okay. So this is the path that will follow in your run up position. Okay. Is it clear? Any doubts? I mean, these are qualitatively simple concepts, okay, where you can have a starting and running. Lastly, you know what is a shaded pole motor, that also, okay. You just wait for 5 minutes, we'll close it, okay. Now, in the shaded pole motor, you have in the pole a connection line. You have a shading ring. This is called a shading ring. There is a main winding will go like this, M winding. So this itself will form a winding. Because there is another pole will be similarly like this. There is another ring like this. So this is used in typically your table fans, sewing machines and things like that. This is called a shaded pole motor. There is one winding which will be there, which will go here like this also. Okay, this is M winding. So this will give, there is a induced current in the second winding which is displaced between this by an angle. So a shaded winding is ahead of the main winding. So it is there is an induced current here. So this is called a shaded pole motor. So a shading ring is provided in the stator core apart from the main winding, which is also wound on the same core. Okay. Current induced in shaded winding leads that in the main winding due to space displacement. So when you have got 2 winding and 2 currents, so starting torque is produced. This is the principle in which a shaded pole winding is used. Okay. Now lastly, where do we use them? These such motors, single phase motors are one of the fractional kilowatt motors built in millions and used in several applications. They are primarily having the same functions, type of loads coming on them. They are used for fans, used for blowers, they are used for pumps, used for compressors. These are the broad applications of these motors, and these are the list of applications. They are used in sewing machines, they are used in table fans, they are used in ceiling fans, they are used in exhaust fans, they are used in refrigerators, they are used in air conditioners. You know, refrigerator, they are driving. What is it driving in a refrigerator? It drives a compressor, okay, and they are used in heat convectors. In winter, you have the heat is being spread in the room, so that is heat convectors are also used, and they are used in desert coolers in summer. All your desert coolers, they have the pumps and fans. They are used in instrumentation, many instrumentation, and also they are used in computers, some of the drives. Okay, they are used in domestic water pumps. Most of the water pumps are using the single phase induction motors. They are used in control systems where you want to control mainly in the process industries. They are used in lubricant pumps. You want to pump the systems. They are used in machine tools, and I would say etc. They are having several applications. So today we have closed all aspects of induction machines, 3-phase motor, 3-phase induction generator, self-excited induction generator, and single phase motor. So this way we come to the end of the induction motors, and we close here.